one pattern that you're seeing of immigrant moms in the sandwich years?
The guilt of not being able to be there for everyone.
Yes.
I noticed that as well when I was younger, but I didn't vocalize it as much because I didn't know how to vocalize it. I just knew mom was sad. Mom was sad, and mom was like, I don't want you to see me sad.
As a mom, I don't want them feeling my pain.
When we moved to Canada, it's so easy for us to believe that if only we had our village here, then motherhood would be easier. And sometimes it is. But what if you have your village here and it still feels heavy?
When they're physically in the same country is one thing, but when they're not in the country, it's another piece. The sandwich years is actually a time period in your life where you are the person in the middle. You have a top bun, which is your parents or some sort of elderly, and then you have a bottom bun, which is children.
Whether your village is here or not, rebuilding is part of the process, regardless of where your village is. This is Momversations, as told by Canadian immigrant moms, live from the Media Hub on riotradio.ca. I'm your host, Kristina McPherson, and my guest today is Chantel Escoffrey and her daughter, Kay, who is going to be unpacking this reality with us today. Hello, Chantel.
Hello.
Welcome. I appreciate you. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We're going to jump right into it, Chantel. You are a first-generation Canadian.
Yes.
Which means that you grew up in an immigrant household. Your parents from Grenada, they come here, and they're in a state where they are having to rebuild their village, have one child in tow already, and now you are part of this environment. What was that like growing up in a household of immigrant parents trying to rebuild?
It was great. I would say from when I was smaller and from when I recall, the lucky thing is my mom had siblings that were here.
Okay.
So the story goes, my uncle came here first. My uncle then sent for my mom, who then came with her husband and my sister at the time. So my dad and my sister at the time. They came over, and then a couple years later they had me. My mom was a nurse, and so she studied in the Caribbean, then came here, did some more studying so that she could have her career. My dad was a mixer, so he worked at the factory, and he worked there for as long as I remember. We grew up with a household, it's a candy factory, and we grew up with a household of candy all the time, bringing it home and things like that.
Fun.
Luckily, my parents, when we moved into an area that was very multicultural. However, multicultural for that time.
Okay. Yeah.
And so going to school, there might have been 3 or 4 Caribbean kids in my grade, but the majority was still very mixed, but not very heavy.
Okay.
Being that way, coming from Grenada, which is a small island, many people didn't know. All they knew about, and I'll be quite blunt, Jamaica.
Of course.
And so
the capital of the Caribbean.
Going to school, it was very funny because I would say I'm Grenadian and I come from Grenada, and they would try to convince me that I came from Grenada. And I would be like, Grenada? No, it's Grenada. And then they would be like, no, Jamaica. And I was like, there are more islands. And I would go home, to be quite honest, traumatized, telling my dad,
Really?
I was like, where are we from? And then he would be like, look at, and everybody has it in their household, it's a felt thing that they would hang on the wall that would bring sort of representation to the culture. So it had Grenada on it, had all the different parts, and he would always tell me we're from Grenada. So I'd go back and forth trying to explain it to the other kids. They didn't get it. Food wise, obviously my parents ate their cultural food, so we would eat that, and I would bring that. For lunch though, it would be sandwiches. So I mean, unfortunately, I wasn't bringing like curry goat or anything like that to school. But if I did bring it to school, I know for a fact a lot of people wouldn't know what it was. And I probably have been chastised for it. And so I think that's why my parents made sure to get me the food that would be welcomed at school. Okay? So I mean, that was my reality. I mean, a good thing is both parents made sure that I got to see culture. So then my aunt came too. So I had my sibling. I had my sister who was born in Grenada. And then I had my aunts and my uncle. And then my mom also, so my dad had had kids before, and they were in Grenada. And so actually my dad sent for one of my other sisters to come to help take care of me.
Yeah.
So that also was another piece.
Okay.
Then growing up, and any West Indian kid would know, you have multitude of aunts and uncles, which are their friends. And I couldn't call them their first names. I didn't know their first names. They were all auntie, uncle, and that's how we kind of were raised with those sorts of pieces.
Okay, so then they sort of came with a village a little bit.
Yep.
And when they needed more support, they sent for the village because they sent for your older sister.
Yes.
To help to, I guess, raise you, because it takes a village, right? And of what you can recall, you were little, but, as time went on, you became a lot more conscious. What weight did you see your mother carry, having to come here, having to get re-educated again, to get into nursing? Nursing has long shifts.
Yep.
What did you see of your mother? What was that weight that you could see that your mom was carrying?
I could see, so my grandfather was still alive when we were younger. Like, he had passed, but he was in Grenada.
Okay.
And my dad actually had a lot of siblings in Grenada or in Trinidad. And so they didn't have that full support. Do you know what I mean? Like, they didn't have everyone here. Like, they would have to find people here that were from their own culture.
Got it.
Or find, like, luckily when my mom came, like, I have like an Auntie Sheila, she was a nurse and she came up here too. Like, some of them all came from different islands, but they knew each other,
right?
Or they came up here. So it was interesting because we would go places, and if they would find people that they're like, wait a second, you're this person from this place, and then they became instant friends, sort of thing. But the weight of when when my grandfather passed away, that was hard, because my mom was just sitting there going, okay, I got to go to the funeral.
Yeah.
I think at that time, my dad ended up going with her, but like bringing everybody, but we weren't able to go.
No, yeah.
And so I didn't know my grandfather.
Yeah.
I didn't get to meet him. I've heard great things about him, but I never got to meet my grandfather. My grandmother on my dad's side, I never got to meet her either. She was too old to come here. And I was too young to go there. And financially, we couldn't pick up the whole family and go back and forth. Like, those liberties weren't there.
Right.
And so, like, my mom was a nurse, but she worked a lot. And she had night shifts. So, like, Christmas was not Christmas. Christmas was, it was Christmas. She made it as best as she could. But, like, we would open gifts really early in the morning or really late at night. She made sure New Year's was our day. New Year's was the day we have dinner all together, because she would normally have to work on Christmas. Okay. My aunt used to take care of us at points in time when we were younger. Birthdays, we would go there and she would make us the cake with the numbers, and she would make it really special for us. When my aunt had kids, so my cousins, my mom used to help take care of them. And so literally they would lean on each other. Like, daycare wasn't the thing. Like, you wouldn't send your kids to daycare. It was more on sense of who could take care of them that's close by that would work. And so that was it. Like, my aunt would drop off the kids in the morning. Sometimes we would get them ready, or she'd drop them to school. My dad would pick them up from school, bring them over. Like, that's kind of how it would work.
Yeah, yeah.
And so relying on each other, the heaviness of not even knowing how it's going to work.
Yeah.
Even like at one point, so not everyone knows, when I was younger, I was born with a hole in my heart. So there was a period of time where I had to go to the hospital frequently.
Okay.
My sister had to stop dance class because she didn't have anyone to take her. My sister wasn't happy about that. But things had to stop because she didn't have someone else to help.
Yeah.
And she didn't have that piece.
Yeah.
And that's why you send for the help. So she actually sent for my sister to come to help. And that was the reality back then.
Yes. Yeah. And even as we do this series and as I process this reality of moving country and moving away, I'm like, is this normal? You know, like they tell the birds to leave the nest or whatever, but they don't need to leave to another country. But what at that time felt normal that now looking back may not have been so normal?
I think not knowing my grandparents.
Yeah.
Like, it was normalized because they were in another country.
Yeah.
I didn't even get, like, nowadays, we can watch, like, we can call them, video call.
Good old
WhatsApp, any of that. I didn't know my grandparents. Like, my dad's mom and my mom's dad. If it's saddening, I could probably walk by them and not know what they look like. Like, that's, like, I did not have a relationship with them. And I think that was also heartbreaking for my parents.
Yeah.
Because they would tell me stories, and it's kind of heartbreaking for me. Like, I don't know them. My grandmother ended up coming up here later on. And I mean, my grandmother lived with us for a period of time, lived with my aunt for a period of time, lived on her own for a period of time. And so I knew my grandmother because she was here. But anything outside of here, did not know. And it felt normal, but to be quite honest, it's not.
It's not.
And it's actually great for the reality right now is it doesn't have to be normal.
No. Yeah.
That you don't know your grandparents. Like, I see a picture and that's about it.
That's so deep. I know that you mentioned that. It's like, yeah, I can relate to even having my dad's siblings. They migrated. We were the only ones in Jamaica with my grandfather and such, and we didn't see them much, and that felt normal. But now I'm just like, why? Why was it like that? Like, that ain't normal. Like, what is this?
Like, my father's siblings, I mean, only when they visited Canada. So it was very interesting because as you think about it, I've siloed. Very siloed.
Yeah.
When they visited Canada, that's how I knew them.
Yeah.
When they did not come to Canada, I did not know them.
Yeah.
And so, like, I mean, he had quite the bit of brothers. I didn't know any of them. And so that reality is kind of strange.
It is.
But, I mean, slowly as everybody migrates, so I have some aunts and uncles in the States. I know them very well. Like, I visited, but they're in the States.
Yeah.
If they had stayed in Grenada, I probably wouldn't have known them as well.
Right.
And so.
And then, so now you eventually grew up. You started your own family, and now the dynamic shifts, right?
Yes.
So now you're not just watching your family and the village carry the weight. Now you have your own weight to carry, and you have to figure out that dynamic for yourself. And in fact, when we met, you validated something for me that I was experiencing, but I didn't have a name, right? And so last year I spent quite a bit of time, a couple months out of the year, having to leave my daughter here, my 5-year-old here, to go back home to support my parents for a period of time last year. And when I spoke to you called it the sandwich years. I was like, oh, that's what I'm feeling. Yes. So tell us, like, for people who don't understand what that means, doesn't know what that means, can you help me to explain to the audience, like, what is the sandwich years, especially in the immigrant context? Because it's almost like another layer, but especially in the immigrant context, what is the sandwich years?
So the sandwich years is actually a time period in your life where you are, and it's also known as the sandwich generation. And so that's a period of time where you are the person in the middle. You have a top bun, which is your parents or some sort of elderly that gives you that support. And then you have a bottom bun, which is children. It could be your own children, or it could be nieces and nephews. And as I go through this journey, I've created this community. I'm finding that it can also be siblings that are older than you that could be in your top bun.
Okay.
And that you're helping them.
Okay.
And so you're the person in the middle, and we call that squeezed and blessed. And so you're squeezed, but blessed to have buns, like blessed to have people around you. And so literally, we call that the sandwich years.
Yeah.
And in the sandwich years, you are exhausted mentally because you're giving. You're the person in the middle. You're giving all the way around. You're speaking to the elderly. Sometimes you have to speak to them like children, unfortunately. And then also you're speaking to your children. And some of your children are older. Like, I've had some conversations with people where they're sort of sitting there going, my kids are 30. They're not kids anymore. I said, they're not kids, but they're still your dependent.
Yeah.
They still will call you. You still look out for them. Like, it doesn't change in that fashion. And so being in the sandwiches mentally, financially as well, because you want to, you're still supporting your bottom bun, so your kids in some shape or fashion, but then your parents might need some support.
Yeah.
And so if they are not from the country and haven't gotten like pension or anything like that, you might, if they're away, you might be sending them money.
A lot of us come to Canada very focused on our immigration journey, and I get it, it's urgent, and so you have to do that. But once you get here to Canada, there's a whole other journey that you need to be prepared for, and that is your financial stability. From protecting your income to preparing for your children's future, these are conversations many people wish they had earlier, and I wish I had earlier. So if you'd like to explore what financial options exist for you, I am a licensed financial broker, and I have a team who is ready to help you. If you click the link in the description below, scan the QR code on screen, or go to astoldbycanadianimmigrants.com/financial broker, you can book a complimentary call with me or somebody on my team to help to discuss your financial future here in Canada. It's not just about coming here to survive. How can we help you to thrive?
Or you have to physically go and visit them, because sometimes they're not physically capable or mentally capable. And so I found myself in the sandwich years, when I first had my kids, my parents still asked me to be, come and visit, do all of those things. And they weren't living very close. Like, we were at two different sides of the city.
Yes.
And so being at two different sides of the city, you have to make a conscious effort to go there. And so quarterly, we try to make a conscious effort to kind of go there. Then slightly, their health started to diminish.
Yeah.
And so with their health diminishing, now I have to take care of them. So literally, I'm sitting there getting a phone call during work, and I'm not sure, is it the school calling me, or is it the home calling me, and those sorts of things. So that's what the sandwichers is about. It's being that person in the middle who's caring for both. And when you're caring for them, when they're physically in the same country is one thing, but when they're not in the country, it's another piece, because there's also guilt, not being able to give them everything. Because you actually can't. You got to give a little to the bottom one, and you also have to give to yourself. And so that's the piece. And so when we first talked and I said it and you looked at me and you're like, it was almost like we're like, girlfriend, I get it. We're here. And then we talked about it a little further, because your reality is a little bit harder.
Yeah.
Because you got to leave one of your buns to go deal with the other one.
Yeah.
And so because they're a lot farther. So that's what the sandwichers is about. It's a reality that we're all going to go through at one shape or form. When your parents or somebody passes, you still have grief. And grief is another heavy thing that, I'll be honest, I'll tell everyone, it doesn't go away. So I've lost 3 of my parents. So both of my parents are gone, and my mother-in-law is gone as well. And it's very heavy. Like, there's things that you wish you talked to them about.
I know.
Things you wish you could have said. Things that you wish they could have told you.
Yeah.
Like, my grandparents' stories are gone, completely gone. I don't know things. And so luckily my aunt is still around. And so I say to my aunt all the time, like, I meet somebody who's from Grenada and I'll be like, is this a cousin? And then she starts laughing at me. She's like, not everyone is your cousin, Chance. And I'm like, but Grenada's small.
It is.
And so, hey, Jamaican, watch your tone.
No, when I say no, I say that only because I was talking to a lady yesterday. She's going to be on next week's episode, and her parents are from Grenada. I'm like, oh, do you know Chantel?
But we do it for all the Caribbean. Everybody must know each other or related in some shape. But the funny part is, as you get older, your community gets smaller. Everybody seems to know somebody from somewhere. And so that's what my reality is now. Like, being an immigrant child, like being of an immigrant parents. My reality is now I depend on my aunts to tell me, hey, is this somebody that we might know? And the last one was funny because she said, that sounds like someone your crazy mother might know. And I started laughing because I was just like, you're so funny, Auntie Jean. But those are the things that happen now.
Yeah, and I love that. That's a perfect this intersection here, because, okay, so now as a person in the sandwich years, you have your village, but like I said in the beginning, like, what if you do have your village and it still kind of feels heavy? So what was your reality like, having had, you have your parents, you have your aunt, you're now a new mom? How did the village play out, really?
So the reality of your village, you will have, so you have a child now, and so you have, obviously, I was lucky, my parents are still here, and then as well as my in-law parents as well. So that's another nuance as well. You've got parents that are sort of, they're not your own parents, but they're there to support you as well. And how that relationship works is a two-way street. I always joke around to say, hey, I need that mother-in-law handbook because that there's a handbook. There has to be. And to be quite honest, there is no handbook anywhere for parenting, for even being like there's no handbook. You're just kind of going through it. And so the reality is my parents were still working.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of people, and based on culture too, they think, oh, well, you have a kid, you can call your mom 2 seconds and she'll be there in 2 seconds. Well, she was at the other end of the city, as well as my mother-in-law was at the other end of the city. And so like our immediate parents weren't there to be able to kind of, I had a C-section. So I'm walking around and trying my best. Luckily, like you find like birds of a feather flock together. So a lot of my friends were also having kids and stuff like that. So I didn't have that reality of my parents can come quickly, whatever. They did come obviously when we were in the hospital, and they also made sure they checked on me frequently over the phone to make sure I had what I needed. With my mom being a nurse, she was my telehealth. So anytime anything would happen, I would call my mom. I would also call my mother-in-law too. She would frequently check in to be like, is everything going okay? All of those sorts of things. But it wasn't, you have to build your own village. And so my friends who were having kids at the same time, we had good conversations. Like things don't happen. Like I'll say it, breastfeeding and stuff, that's not a natural thing. Everybody thinks it is, but it is not a natural thing. For some, it's lucky, happens right away. For others, like myself, it didn't. And so I struggled with it. And there's a level of depression that happens as well. But that's not something that potentially your parents might understand. Because it was their reality was a little different. And also them growing up is a little bit different too. They had like maybe people that took care of the kids and all that stuff. When you're telling them, well, no, and daycare costs money. Daycare, what are you talking about daycare? Well, you don't have the facets to take care of these kids running all over the place. So I think there's a thought that, oh, you can just, your parents will come and take care of them. No, they're working still. They still have a life. And to be quite honest, they've done their share. And some of the mentality is, I've done my share. This is your time. Your time. You figure it out.
Bring them up when they're
exactly.
Potty
so
trained.
Some of the advice they would give me is, you got to find little mom groups. So I found little mom groups, and as my kids went through school, I call them my mom friends. And they don't have to be, they weren't, some of them became my best friends, and some of them weren't. Some of them were literally somebody I could go to have coffee with, or sit there and go, is this happening too? Oh, it's not just me. And so you're finding your own village. And yes, the family is here, but the family also gives you a little bit of a space to create your own village. And it's very important to do so.
Yeah. I love that. It's a perfect point, actually, because like you said, they may not be able to relate to that phase of life. I remember my mom asking me, is the baby getting enough milk? I don't know. But then other moms would get it and they would hate that question too. So I think you hit on a really, really, really important point there, that yes, the village is here. It doesn't mean that it takes away the difficulty of them not being here. It shifts how it looks. And also, regardless of whether the village is here or the village is not here, there's some degree of rebuilding that has to happen to build a village and community around you, because like you said, they could be on the other side of the city, but they also could just not get it. They could also just not get it. They can also just deep.
Not get it. And I mean, I'm grateful. Like my parents and my in-laws, they got it. But they also they were still working. Do you know and understand? Like they're working, they're still doing their thing. You can't expect them to stop. No. And so unless your parents are older, now if your parents are older, they can't run after any kids. They're not doing that for you.
No.
Now that could be other people might have that, but that's the reality is most people don't have that. The good reality is that my kids know their grandparents and knew their grandparents. And so that was it. And grandparents could make it to that recital or could show up at kindergarten. Like one of our best memories is my father-in-law went to my daughter's school and helped them build clocks. And it was like grandparent day or something like that. And so those realities, and I guess you would miss out on those things because they can't come to those things.
Yeah.
But
it's good old WhatsApp.
There is, but
it's not the same.
It's not the same. And so I mean, he remembers it like yesterday of making a clock for one of her friends.
Yeah,
they would come to like the first communions and any church things that were like needed. They would be there for those.
Yeah,
and that's a blessing.
Yes,
I'll be honest. Being an immigrant, like being of immigrant parents, my kids, they didn't come.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, even my own parents, some like when I was in high school and doing when I was in elementary school playing sports, they couldn't come.
Yeah.
They were working.
Yeah.
They were working hard. And so like, I mean, I think one time I did a jazz thing at Town Center for once, and I looked up and my mom was there with my sister. And I think that's the only time they were showing up.
Yeah.
And then I remember talking to my own kids, and there's a track meet, and I remember telling Kay, I was like, I can't come to that track meet. She was in tears. And I was like, whoa, you don't know the reality of me and my husband. We were lucky if they were able to come because they were working.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I love that you mentioned Kay. Actually, we're going to bring Kay on soon to hear from Kay. There's one question I want to ask really quickly, because you talk to quite a number of people who are in the sandwich years right now through your podcast, and some of which are immigrants. If there's one pattern that you're seeing as a repeated pattern of immigrant moms in the sandwich years, what's that one pattern that you're seeing?
The guilt of the juggle.
Oh.
So as you snap, the guilt of the juggle, and the guilt of not being able to be there for everyone.
Yes.
That is common for all that I'm seeing, but more prevalent for those with the immigrant side, because that piece was huge. The other piece is time. And so for two of the guests that I had who weren't around their parents, when they did see their parents, they were the ones who were able to pick up on something being wrong. Because they didn't see them every day.
Right.
And so they were able to pick up something's not right. She's not remembering certain things.
Right.
But when you're so close to them all the time, you can't pick up on those things. You can't pick up on the fact that they didn't remember something, or that they don't remember something from the past, or they can't physically do something.
Yes.
Whereas when you haven't seen them for a long time, you're already doing the checks and balances. Is everything still working? Do they remember this? Are they still doing this?
Yeah.
That's the stuff that I'm noticing.
Deep. And I remember when my grandfather passed, I was here, just became a permanent resident, and I felt that guilt. I was like, what am I doing here? And I want to say to the viewers, actually, too, is have you ever heard of the sandwich generation or the sandwich years? And even if you haven't, and now you have a word for it, what's your experience like? Can you let us know in the comment section below on YouTube? Now, all the while this is happening, I love that you mentioned Kay's name, because while we're in the sandwich years, while we're being a mom, while we're doing this, while we're immigrating, there are tiny people watching. And now, they grow up in these environments, and what's it like for them? You heard from my 5-year-old, like, she just wished we all lived in the same country. But now Kay had her grandparents here, and we want to hear from Kay. What was her experience like with the village? So we heard from Chantel, and now we have Kay with us to tell us about her experience of the village. Now, she's not little anymore. She's a big grown young lady in university. Kay, you had your grandparents around, you grew up with your grandparents around, and you heard your mom's experience. You know what her experience was like. Did it feel like we describe it, the village? What did the village feel like for you, having your grandparents here?
So having my grandparents here, when my mom was talking about the story with the clocks, I remember my grandfather coming, and I didn't until she talks about her grandparents in this realize how blessed I truly am when it comes to that, because my grandparents were always there. I always remember if my parents weren't there, my grandpa would come, or my grandma would come with my grandpa, or my grandparents were tried to come. And even now, like with them passing, like I realized like how much they are now missing, which is unfortunate, but how blessed I was when I was younger to have them there, which is really great. And even when she's talking about that village that she's kind of formed with like my chosen aunties and uncles, it's been really great because they are my aunties and uncles. I don't call them any word different, and it's weird to call them by their first names at that, but they're my family as well. And growing up in that kind of environment where my grandparents are here, where I have my chosen aunties and uncles, it's truly a blessing, but it's also like, it's something you can often take for granted. And especially like moving away from university and like going to somewhere completely different, because now I go to school in Ottawa, you see that difference of being like, I don't have that anymore. So it was amazing, and like I'm very grateful for that as well. But I do understand like now with them being here, like my mom had to carry a lot of that as well. And like she talks about the sandwich years, and I noticed that as well when I was younger, but I didn't vocalize it as much because I didn't know how to vocalize it. I just knew mom was sad. Mom was sad, and mom was like, I don't want you to see me sad. And she's like, I just need a minute. And I would be like, why is mom sad? But I realized it's because like, I think a great example of that is like when my grandfather got sick. And now she had all this weight, and she was like the youngest sister, and they were all looking to her sometimes to like get things organized and get going, and it was a lot for her. And also she's working with her sisters, and I have a brother myself. I know that like you fight, and now you're fighting about your parents, which isn't nice at all. So seeing all of these things, it's like, yes, it was great to have my parents, like my grandparents there, but now because they are so close, my mom has to be the person that is there. And like that sense of guilt that she was talking about is especially huge when they're so close to you, because you have to help. Like there's no one else there to help.
Deep. Chantel, how does that land?
Well, it's interesting because you said it, you're watching it, and I didn't realize that you noticed the heaviness. And so, I mean, you asked about the heaviness that my parents, and that's it. Like with their parents being away, like when my grandfather passed away, like I could see my mom's sadness, but I never knew the grandfather. So it was kind of like I never knew my grandfather, so it was a little tricky. And so she's seen it all. Like I didn't see her carry the weight of him not being well and all of that stuff. I never saw all that. I didn't see her taking care of her parents as much. I didn't get to see the funeral. Like, so there's that piece that I never got to see, but she's got to see it.
Yes.
And so that's another reality, is our kids are watching us.
Yes.
And as a mom, I'll be honest, I don't want them feeling my pain. That's what our job is. But we can't spare it because they are still seeing it. So that's the part where I was like, I didn't know you saw all that.
Yes.
It kind of makes me sad, but I guess it's a reality of life, right?
Yeah.
Like now she knows that also I'm going to get older.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, let's not talk about that.
Well,
we don't.
The reality is that
right?
I am going to get older. I'm not old now, not old now.
Yeah.
But I will get older.
Yes.
So I mean, but you have some great memories with your grandparents, and they tried.
Yeah.
They tried their best. Like my mom used to sew. She sewed her first communion dress.
Aww.
And so I mean, it was excellent in that fashion. And when she graduated from during COVID, that was another hard piece.
Oh yeah.
Because we couldn't see my parents, like we couldn't go see them, and we had to, and like even my mother-in-law, like we had to keep distance, which was really hard for them because they're also calling, where's my grandchildren? Like they have expectations, they want to know. And the other layer of, we have to raise the children just as good. And so they literally, and I'm sure your dad's like, what are you doing with my grandchild? Like, are you doing what you're supposed to be doing?
I'm not strict enough. I think I'm hella strict.
We should ask your daughter that. I'm sure she'll be like, no, mom's good. We don't need any more. But yeah.
Now, Kay, you mentioned you go to school in Ottawa, which is it's not a different country, but it's far away.
It's pretty far, I would say. A lot of my friends that do live in Ottawa, they're like, you got 4 hours from home.
Yes.
And a lot of my friends stay home. So
Yes.
it's definitely interesting seeing like that dynamic, because I know it kills my mom being like 4 hours away. And I can only imagine for my friends that are international students, but it's definitely like a very big disconnect. And I think for my mom and for me, that time, it was actually funny. In my first year of university, I had gotten sick, and my mom had a heart attack. My mom had an absolute heart attack.
I almost booked the flight. My husband was like, can we just find out first if she's good? I said, no. I've already almost booked the flight. I'm getting ready to drive down there, get home so I could get the good car so that we could drive down. And he's like, you need to slow down. And I was like, okay, call me when you're done at the hospital.
So
hospital,
I had to go to the hospital because I didn't have a family doctor in Ottawa.
Yes.
And when I did try to do my own research, it led me into a completely different direction. I had doctors telling me, oh, like, this is what's happening with your ear. And now I'm even more scared, and I can't come to my mom and be like, this is what they're saying. And now I'm like, okay, now I have to go to the hospital. But it's those moments where you're like, I don't have I don't have my mom with me.
Know your village.
But she still tries to be there,
Yeah,
you know,
of
with the
course.
with the phones and everything, and she's just texting me and calling me down.
Calling you down?
Yes, calling me down.
That sounds a little stalkerish, Kayla.
You are calling me down.
No, I'm not. Well, the sad part is, and she knows that, I can track her too.
Yeah.
Like, she's still on my phone behind, so I can see, like, she's in her res or she's safe. And for a while when she first left, I would do that.
Yeah.
Because I just wanted to know that my baby girl was good.
Yes.
And so, I mean, that experience with her in the hospital. So when you drop them off to school, I think it's a reality that a lot of us don't remember. We drop them off to school, and then we're not seeing them the next day.
Yeah, it's like a
and
mini
their room
migration.
is empty. And you're sort of sitting there going, what is going on here? And I didn't cry because I was like, I'm not going to cry. But I was emotional.
Yeah.
And then when she got sick, because I hadn't seen her, when she got sick, she called me and I'm like, I'm there. Good thing is 4 hours. But there's flights, there's trains, and I was going to do it. And then she told me, because it went from, you had not an ear infection, it was I thought she had an ear infection, like a nasal ear infection. But when she went to the wrong doctor, the doctor told her she had a tumor in her ear.
She was like, you have a
blood clot
in your ear. And I was like, what are you telling me right now?
Exactly. So when she tells me this, I was like, what? I'm like, no. I'm like, go to the hospital and she luckily met a doctor from Toronto, which was able to and so she's relaying the messages. I'm literally sitting there going, like, trying to work at the same time and trying to plan the exit plan.
Yeah.
So then when we found out she had an ear infection, one of the things that she did do, and literally she's like, Mom, you know what? Because I said, do you want to come home? And she goes, actually, no, but you can call the aunties, which is my friends. Maybe you guys can come visit me. And I love my girls. I called my girls and I said, hey, Kay's not well. She's not feeling well. And my girlfriend literally was like, when are we leaving? Saturday. And so she's like, we drove down to Ottawa for the day and drove right back. Two of my girlfriends jumped in the car and we went. And that's my village. Like,
yes.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
yeah.
You're going to find these people who get it. And she calls them auntie. We went. I saw her in her ecosystem. She had unpacked, because we left her unpacked. I didn't know what she was dealing with. And when she was unpacked and everything, and we saw her, we went to Walmart to do some last minute shop before we left. And I started to cry a bit. And she pulled my auntie, my friend aside. She goes, "Can you take care of my mom?"
Yeah. Aww.
And then she's like, "We got her. Don't worry."
Yeah.
And then I was just sitting there going, it was tears of joy, kind of.
Yeah.
Because she's gonna find her way.
She's gonna find her way.
And I was comfortable after that.
Yeah.
And so those are the realities that we're gonna have with our kids. We have some great schools here, but there are great schools in other places. And so very fortunate that it's only 4 hours, because it could have been somewhere else.
Yes.
She had another teacher who was trying to send her to BC. And I said, absolutely not.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
That's way too far.
So
do you see what I said? That's way too far.
Well, I'm from Jamaica.
Yeah, so and
my mom had to see me leave. And I think that's part of the reality too. It's like, what are immigrant moms? Like, you're not an immigrant. You didn't have to leave the country, but you're far away.
Yeah.
And what is that experience of the village that we leave behind? That's part of the unpacking as well. And so you're in school now in Ottawa. You kind of left the village behind. You're not super far away. So there's that comfort of a safety net that there are a 4 or 5 hour drive away. What is that outlook for you, for your future life? Like, I know it's like, I'm not saying, I don't know if you want to have kids or anything like that, but that life of, okay, when I grow up, I want to be, you know, like, what is that vision that you see for yourself now that you know that your mom grew up in an immigrant home, they left their parents behind. You had your grandparents. Now you know what it's like to not be around the village as closely. Like, what do you see or feel?
I think one thing that my mom very much like showed me was the chosen aunties and uncles part. And like, I really think, especially in university, now being away from my family, finding your chosen village, even when you're in university, has been very important to me. And a lot of my friends are like, I when my friends come and meet me, they're like, I'm like, yo, yeah, come in my room, come check out my res. Like, oh, do you need something? Like, I can help you here or there. And they're like, why are you so open? Like, why are you willing to give so much? And the reason why is because that's how I was growing up. Like, you help where you can, and you see, because that's how you build community, and that's how you slowly like grow your village. And that's what I hope to do for like my future kids as well. Like, I want them to have their chosen aunties and uncles, and I have no doubt that my parents will try to find a way to like wiggle their way into
wiggle
their way into like my kids' lives and be there. But I really do hope that they surround themselves with like, they have a community behind them, and it's not only just their core family, but it's also their aunts and uncles that saw like their mom grow up and are like, okay, like, I saw your mom in university, and now they're a part of them a little bit too. Like, they understand like, you're Kayla's kid, so that means that I look out for you as well.
Yes.
And that's something that I really want to push. And especially now, like with university, a lot of my friends, they come from immigrant households. So it's definitely interesting talking with them, saying like, oh, like, you're kind of living what my mom's reality was.
Yes.
And then now I'm telling them like, your reality is going to be like, your kid's reality is going to be my reality. So it's definitely talking about those things and seeing like, what is that discount? What does that look like now? Having those conversations with your friends, and like, how are their kids going to navigate, and how am I going to be that auntie that's like, I know exactly what you're going through. So I think those are definitely like things I see in my future for sure.
Awesome. I love that you bring that up, because I am your parents, because I am the immigrant mom. My daughter is the first generation, right? And I think even having these conversations and raising awareness about even this phase, and even you get to unpack it a little bit, you get to bring an immigrant into your village and make them part of a village, and by extension they have a village now through you. So I love that. Chantel, like, what sacrifices have you had to make in this season of being a part of the sandwich years?
Sacrifices. So not being able to be there for everybody. So, I mean, it was hard. Working corporate jobs and just, you know, getting the phone calls and figuring out where I had to be at a certain time. Like, sometimes I would get the phone call from my son saying, "Hey, Mom, where are you?" I'm taking care of your grandfather, or hey, what's happening here from a dinner perspective, and things like that. So from a sacrificing that, but also sacrificing me.
Yeah.
I think giving a lot, and I say this I used to say this to the kids when I would be like, my cup's empty and running on empty. And so, I mean, when you have kids, it's interesting. I think times have changed, but when you were having kids in a corporate landscape, you couldn't do, like, you were put in another category. Okay, you weren't going to climb that ladder, that corporate ladder that you might have wanted at the time. And I think for me, I had to sit there and decide that, you know what, I think I prefer having a family as opposed to having a shiny new office big without space, because that's the time. It's either time I put into work or time into the family.
Yeah.
And so having that kind of trade-off, giving up that want. But what I did end up doing in the sandwich years, and what people tend to say, there's a period of time where you go for your second career.
Yeah.
And trying to figure out what's that second thing that you'd like to do that fills your cup now. And so the sacrifice of changing a career, but actually finding something new.
Yeah.
And so while there are many sacrifices that you may have, one of the things I want to say is when you look at it on another grand scheme, you have the ability to do more. So leaving corporate to have my own company and doing my own thing, I'm able to go to certain things. I'm able to go like pick up my son from school or watch a basketball game, pick up my daughter or go watch a sport. I was able to do all of those things. So that kind of piece, sacrificing funds sometimes. Like sometimes I'm not buying that expensive purse for myself, but they're getting to go somewhere or getting to do something. So those are kind of but I think that comes with being a mother. It's motherhood. It comes with conversations. And honestly, I wouldn't change it for the world. I'll be honest. It's the best job I've ever had. And it's not a job that I'm done with. Like my youngest is 17. I'm never gonna not be a mom. Like, nope. I'm sorry, Kay, you got me. I'm wigging my room in everywhere, but you got me. I'm always gonna be your biggest cheerleader. Like, I don't know if you know that, but I am the biggest cheerleader. And one of the things one of my parents used to do for me is I could do no wrong. Like my dad, I could do no wrong. I was the best kid ever, and that's normally what parents like. You can do no wrong.
I don't agree. My kid's always doing something. I don't agree. She can do wrong.
They can do wrong, but not
I get
wrong.
What you say.
Like
there'll always be grace,
exactly,
and forgiving.
And to be quite honest, we all have pretty good kids.
Yes,
because they're our kids.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
They watch. They see. So
yes, and I have a good kid. You touched on a really good point, Kay, about having to rebuild the village, right? And what that looks like from your perspective as the daughter. I want to, both of you, so one practical piece of advice for an immigrant family that is navigating this space right now in the sandwich years, being away from home. If you want to go first, give me one piece of practical advice that you would tell an immigrant family.
I guess to speak to kind of like the immigrant family, like what I've seen with a lot of my friends is a lot of the cultural norms that they kind of like grew up with internationally, or their parents grew up internationally. They see that, and it's kind of difficult trying to deal with those dynamics as well as like Canadian values at the same time. And like I think sometimes immigrant parents are like, you have it so much better than me. You have it so much better, like in terms of what you're going through. And like I know a lot of my friends are grateful for the lives that their parents have given them, for sure. It's just now a matter of like they are dealing with things just on a different kind of landscape and trying to navigate now being in the middle, because a lot of them come with their parents here, but they're still like ingrained some way or some fashion in the Canadian culture. So trying to find their footing while trying to maintain their culture is also something very important. So I think one of my practical steps is just like give your kids a little bit of grace when it comes to that, because they are also going through things as well and trying to figure out and navigate themselves as well.
Oh, I love that. And we just heard from that mom actually that the kids experience this move that they didn't even choose in their own way, shape or form. And you, Chantel, as somebody who is now like has put together a whole brand support for people in the sandwich years, what's your one piece of practical advice for immigrant families navigating?
Ask for help. And accept help. You would probably offer help to others, so allow people to help you. And you will build your own community. They don't need to be your best friends. Like, you're not looking for best friends. What you're looking for is people that can assimilate or make you feel that you're not alone, because you're not alone. There are many people going through it, and it's just finding those communities for you. And they may look exactly like you, like come from the same culture, but they might not. Knowing that the nuances are there. So there is help out there. And especially in the sandwich years as well, some of it might be costly, some of it might be free. But get the help you need, and don't be scared about it.
Love that. You guys have been both amazing guests. I appreciate both of you. And I think what this conversation shows is that whether your village is here or not, there is that weight that doesn't disappear. It might look different, it might shape differently. And a consistent theme that I'm hearing throughout the series, but also in the conversation here today, is that rebuilding is part of the process, regardless of where your village is. It just may show up differently. And many women, many moms are carrying more than they show, more than they say. You just got to hear from your daughter something that you never realized that she was paying attention. They're paying attention. So leave room for that. But also, while moms are carrying these things quietly, consistently, and often without saying anything, maybe ask how they're doing. Ask how they're doing. And that's part of the conversation that we need to have more often. In fact, whoever's watching this episode, wherever you're watching this episode, I'd love to hear where you're watching this episode from. So if you want to just pop that in the comment section below, but also what has worked for you. Now you have the language if you never had it before, and if you've just been reminded of what the language is. Now you have listened to this conversation. What has worked for you? Any practical tips, things that have worked for you while navigating the sandwich years as an immigrant? We'd love to hear about it in the comment section below, right here on YouTube. And if you're listening on podcast, go over to YouTube. So whether the village is here or not, there is weight, and community is a big part of it. You know that my magic word is networking. If you're not new to me, you know that. If you're new, that's my magic word. Okay. So that's a wrap. That's a wrap for this week. That's a wrap for today. And this is just one layer of the immigrant experience. The first generation Canadian, and then the second generation kid, and how you experience the village. I'm not calling you a kid. My mom would kill me for that. I'm so sorry. Young lady. Okay.
She's always going to be my kid. Sorry.
Yes, some mamas have the village, and some people it's not here at all, and it's just a different kind of weight. We'll keep unpacking in the next episode when we'll talk about navigating autism support, being a momtrepreneur, and more right here on Momversations. Please don't forget, you can follow the Media Hub at DCSA Media Hub, and you can also follow us at As Told by Canadian Immigrants and Chantel at The Sandwich Years. We're on all social media platforms, YouTube, Instagram, you name it, we are there. And follow this series along at astoldbycanadianimmigrants.com/mom. Thank you for joining us today. This was Momversations, as told by Canadian Immigrants, live from the Media Hub on riotradio.ca.